Now let's talk about Donald Trump. He's going to be very happy with the poll released overnight after a poor showing on a CBS poll a day earlier. This latest poll shows Donald Trump has hit a record high approval rating amid the tariff turmoil. The new Daily Mail JL Partners polling was conducted between April 10 and April 14, and it shows the president's approval rating sitting at 54%. Josh, what's really interesting here is that Donald Trump remains most popular with young voters. Among those aged 18 to 29, the president's approval rating is 64%, and it's in the 50s for every other age group. That's pretty incredible, Josh.
So there's a few things that are very, very interesting about those graphs and that data that we all just saw there. So going back to the Trump baseline number there, he's currently at around 53% per this poll. Even at his lowest point of the second term thus far, he's at around 49%. 49%, believe it or not, Rita, in contemporary American polling is actually very good as far as a president's approval rating goes. I'm not sure that Donald Trump reached 49% really in his entire first term. Neither, for that matter, did Barack Obama in his entire second term. Joe Biden definitely did not. We probably have not seen presidential approval ratings this high since the very earliest days of Barack Obama, prior to 2010, prior to Obamacare, back when the country was still enraptured by these false promises of hope and change. It's been a long time is the point there. So Donald Trump is clearly on a high. People that are trying to tear him down, that are saying that he's in a constitutional crisis and that he's in a showdown with the courts. What's going to happen with this El Salvadoran migrant there? DEI, they're calling him a racist, as they always do there. The American people aren't buying it. The American people have seen this play before. And when you cry wolf enough times, Rita, which the Democrat media complex here in the United States has been doing on and on and on and on for the past decade, ever since Trump's descent down the gilded escalator at Trump Tower in the summer of 15, at some point, the American people are just going to say, enough, I call your bluff, I don't buy it. That's what's happening right now.
Absolutely. And we've seen his poll numbers always be underreported anyhow, which shocked me that it was still happening in 2024, because we saw that in 2016. And it was pretty consistent throughout the 2024 campaign as well, where the reality did not match the polls. The reality ended up being a lot better for Donald Trump. And the bad news continues for the Democrats. Have a listen to this shock poll result. This shook up CNN.
This, to me, is one of the most shocking pieces of poll data that I truthfully have seen this year, or maybe in any prior year.
Really?
Yes, really, because I want you to take a look. Cares more about the needs for people like you. You mentioned it, Kate Ball. We got a tie, even after this tariff war had already started, split between Democrats and Republicans on how people feel. Which party cares more for needs of people like you? And why is that so surprising? Because I want you to take a look at prior years. Democrats always lead on this question. Back in 2017, before the 2018 midterms, 13-point lead. 2005, a 23-point lead for Democrats. 1994, which was a big Republican year, a 19-point lead for Democrats. And now, all of a sudden, a tie? All of a sudden, the Democrats, who are the party of the people, no more. We get a tie on this question, on a question that has traditionally overwhelmingly been a Democratic advantage.
This is a stunning turnaround, Josh, and I think the tariff policy, as unpopular as we are told it is, might have something to do with that.
Well, it has a lot to do with it, actually, because it is emblematic of Donald Trump's working class mentality there. I mean, this is a man who has fundamentally reshaped the Republican Party. And, you know, people say that it's Donald Trump's party. No, there's actually a very long historical school of thought when it comes to this more nationalist, populist strand of conservatism. I think back actually as far back as Benjamin Disraeli, the 19th century British prime minister. He coined the term one nation conservatism. It's this idea that the working class and the middle class really is the of the country. For far too long, the Republican Party veered in a pro-elite, pro-Wall Street direction. They lost track of who they were. They completely abandoned the very people that made this country great in the first place. Donald Trump is bringing it back there, and his pro-tariff, pro-industrial policy measures, I think, are very much part of the appeal. He recognizes that our economists, our ruling elites, both parties, went way too far down the rabbit hole on maximizing vague nostrums such as economic efficiency and consumer surplus. But what about the notion of manufacturing? What about just making stuff there? What about the fact that China has just taken all of America's national security critical supply chains there? This stuff actually matters a lot. Donald Trump's the guy to do it there. He's the champion of the working class. And you see right there in the CNN poll, Harry Enton there is a CNN guy. I've known Harry since I was 18 years old. We go way back. I feel, Rita, that Harry's trying to tell the CNN audience a message there. I'm not sure the CNN audience wants to listen to that message, though.
No, I think when he brings them news like that, they just turn off. Now, we talk about constitutional crisis. This, I think, is the real constitutional crisis. We've had another Obama-appointed judge, this time Indira Talwani, blocking the Trump administration from cancelling a program introduced by Joe Biden that granted parole and the right to work to more than 500,000 immigrants from countries like Haiti and Venezuela. What happens next year, Josh? What can the administration do about these activist judges who are undermining the authority of the duly elected president?
Well, there's a lot, frankly, that Congress and the president acting in tandem can do. Fortunately for Donald Trump, his party Republicans control both houses of Congress. So if they actually wanted to, they could solve this problem essentially overnight. So here are among the various things they could do. You can, of course, get the ball rolling on judicial impeachment if there is a truly rogue judge. Now, admittedly, that would require a 2/3 majority in the Senate, so it's a bit of a long shot there. But you could pass legislation, Congress could pass, and the president could sign into law such things as jurisdiction stripping legislation. Congress has the ability in our constitutional order to basically dictate what types of cases federal judges can hear. If Congress wants to say that in a certain type of case, a certain cause of action, the federal courts have no jurisdiction, it's only state courts and local courts that hear it, Congress can do that there. When it comes to some of these so-called nationwide injunctions, which are flagrantly and frankly offensively unconstitutional, Congress could abolish that overnight tomorrow if we want to. Congress has full authority to detail what remedies a federal court can issue and cannot issue there. And frankly, Rita, I mean, if the courts really ultimately do want to play this game, they really want to go down there. Ultimately, I think it's worth bearing in mind. In the Federalist number 78 from Alexander Hamilton, one of our great founding fathers, he famously said that the judiciary is the least dangerous branch because it has neither force nor will, but merely judgment, and depends upon the efficacy of the executive branch, even for the enforcement of its own judgments. I emphasize that latter part there because it's something of a truism. The courts literally cannot enforce their own orders. In fact, the mere fact that a judicial opinion has been rendered in our system, it is the persuasive ability of that opinion that controls whether the executive will enforce it. So at some point, frankly, their own hubris really could get the better of them.
Now, this is big news. Earlier today, New York Attorney General Letitia James, who was behind so much of the lawfare against Donald Trump in New York, has now been referred herself for possible prosecution over allegations of mortgage fraud. What else can you tell me about this, Josh?
Well, this is pretty brand new stuff across the transom, but it looks to me like Tish James listed the Commonwealth of Virginia, the state of Virginia, as her primary residence back when she was applying for a mortgage back in 2023. The problem is that Tish James has been the Attorney General of New York State for far longer than that there. So, I mean, square that circle for me. How can you legally get away with calling one state your primary residence to try to get a more favorable mortgage interest rate type loan? And on the other hand, you're the Attorney General of a different state there. But, Rita, this is really nothing new. I mean, Democrat lawmakers, Democrat prosecutors, they play by an entirely different set of rules. I mean, Tish James, we all remember her for being front and center of the lawfare, of the Democrat lawfare complex, a sprawling campaign to try to deprive Donald Trump of getting his second term in office there. I think about Fani Willis as well. Fani Willis is in Atlanta, Georgia, Fulton County, Georgia. Fani Willis was on the wrong side of the law as well. So many of these Democrat prosecutors, Rita, they just flip their hands. They say, you know what? I am the lawyer here. I'm the prosecutor. Screw you. I'm going to make the rules here. You better come at me there. But you know what? The Trump DOJ is calling her bluff in this case, Tish James, because she could find herself on the wrong side of the law for good. It'll depend on which judge they draw there. But I like what I see so far. I like the aggressiveness of the administration in bringing these charges.
A bit of irony given the cases she pursued against Donald Trump, but there's got to be a reckoning for some of these activist prosecutors. I mean, she launched her whole campaign on the premise of getting Trump. She wasn't even hiding how she was going to politicize that office.
Yeah, 100%. She literally ran in 2018 for Attorney General of New York State on a platform of, I don't like Donald Trump and I am going to get him by any means necessary. There's actually kind of a clever legal analogy here. So in the Constitution, there is a prescription, there's a ban on what is called a bill of attainder. A bill of attainder goes back to the old English Star Chamber in like 7th century England. And a bill of attainder was a king's writ or a parliamentary act of legislation that would single out an individual by name, meaning it was not a general provision. It was just singling out one person for sole exclusive punishment there. So the analogy that I like to draw is that when Tish James ran for office there, she basically ran a bill of attainder political campaign. Now, that's not necessarily illegal. I mean, we have a First Amendment. You can say a lot of crazy stuff on the campaign trail. People, frankly, do it all the time there. But it's morally repulsive. It's morally repulsive there, and it says a lot about her character, frankly, or lack thereof.
Josh Hammer, thanks so much for your time tonight.